This is going to be one of the most important videos. The question here is, are the US, Canada, and Ireland the only three countries that don't make you pass through immigration, which is formal exit control or exit immigration when leaving via plane? Now, this is particularly very important for people who have multiple nationalities, multiple passports. So what happens when you enter in using one of your nationalities and for whatever reason you're exiting and you have a second passport which is different from the one you used to enter? What happens then? But even before we analyze that impact, it's very important to understand the few countries that don't have this exit immigration. You're not hitting any immigration counter when you're exiting the country. So we're going to deep dive into this discussion. This is particularly very, very interesting for people who have multiple options in place and who are exercising their right to enter and exit based on their portfolio of passports. They're actually using their residencies or citizenships to enter and exit. All right, so as expected, a lot of people mentioned that these are not the only three. There are more. Of course, there are more. We're going to deep dive in assessment and analysis of our advanced members. A lot of our advanced members are on the ground. They have practical experiences from on-field. So I'm going to particularly focus my attention on their feedback. So that's going to be the first part. The second part is going to be the assessment, the permutation combination, the impact, the advantages or benefits versus the disadvantages, what happens, etc. So before we embark on this exciting journey, this is a developing poll, right? Just posted. So your opinion is extremely valuable. So if you haven't participated in this poll, I would highly encourage you to go to the communities section of our channel and voice your opinion. Give us your feedback, give us your experience. That really helps complete this poll, right? So let's get started. And one interesting thing that I observed was there was a Wikipedia article on this listing 5 countries, and I had seen this multiple times. And for whatever reason, they have removed or modified it. Now they don't have this list of countries that do not have exit immigration. I don't know why they have removed it, but this should be public information available to all. It's not about doing anything right or wrong. This is knowledge, this is public knowledge, and everyone should be aware of this information. All right, let us start with the first feedback here, and it is from the Roybit, right, one of our advanced members, and he says, I know Panama, Costa Rica, Guatemala, and Denmark, EU do. First of all, when you talk about EU, now EU does not have exit control within the EU, but the moment you step outside the EU, they normally do have it. Panama is an interesting one. A lot of people are in the process. A lot of people have gotten Panama in the past. Now, of course, it's much more unaffordable to a lot of people. It may be affordable, but not many people would be interested in putting in $300K to just get that residency in Panama. One of the biggest reasons is that it's now on the FATF gray listed list of countries. So obviously that has its own ramifications. So if you are looking at Panama, then you got to think about that as well. And that's one of the reasons why many people would not consider investing in Panama at this time. But Costa Rica again has a residency program. It's not the best for citizenship because the wait time is a lot. It's 7 years for citizenship. The minimum physical presence is also substantial if you want to become a Costa Rica citizen. But just as a pure residency, this is a plan B option. This is a great option. Let's focus on the second one. And Big Daddy here talks about Canada, and he says that Canada started recording exit logs in 2021. He's asking the question, and one of the things is a lot of these countries maintain exit logs, and although you don't formally go through exit immigration control, meaning you're not hitting a counter where the officer is going to check your passport and then stamp it for exit and record it, they're actually going to gain this through the APIS system, which is Advanced Passenger Information Systems. So once you are, let's say, flying out to another country, the airline staff would collect your would issue you your boarding pass. That's when they will check your passport, collect that information, enter it in the APIS database that you're exiting and you're going to a new country. They're going to do a couple of things here. One is transmit your information outward to the country, the destination country, right, where you're landing. So that's where they would pass this information. So the country where you are being received is going to know all of this information. So once you hit the immigration counter, this is going to tally with what you are presenting. If there's inconsistency, then that immigration will deal with that situation. But let's say on the other side, what they're also going to do is transmit your information inward to the country that you're exiting, and that's how they maintain the exit logs. So they get this data from the airline APS records and don't physically interview exiting candidates. Patience is Alpha says, Google Paper Lives Immigration Canada. There was a documentary on YouTube regarding this, where how certain Asian or Chinese nationals were creating a paper trail within the country to satisfy the permanent residency requirements and then apply for citizenship. A lot of those people have been caught. Well, I would say most of those people or all of those people have been caught. Their passports have been revoked and citizenship has been stripped. Yes, there was a major overhaul during the 2016-2018 period, and there was this documentary that I spoke about. Now they record all entries via the APIS for themselves, and in case of Nexus or Global Entry, they get this through their counterparts at the destination immigration. So this is interesting. A lot of people, some people have questions regarding Nexus. Hey, I use the Nexus Pass. Is this recorded? Do they know of my entries? Or what about Global Entry? So the systems that you use for this Nexus or Global Entry, when you swipe your card or when you flash your card, automatically that information is not only available to the receiving country, but that also gets transmitted back to the source country. And that is the whole objective of Nexus, and clearance is automated to process you faster, but at the same time it's capturing information and transmitting to all different places. Robert here says again that I have been to Canada since 2019, but I didn't have to go through any kind of customs to leave, not counting getting back into the US. Yes, Robert, there is no exit immigration, physical exit immigration, so you're not going to physically see it. But as I said, if you're using Nexus, automatically that information is being transmitted back to Canada. And if you're using the airline, then the APIS system is going to notify Canada as well. Romal Patel here says Mexico and UK. Now, with respect to Mexico, this gets very interesting. Now, if you're a visitor, then yes, it's processed faster. Gone are the days when you use those FMM cards to give it back to them and then exit. Here, they have made it faster. They've made it automated. And the meaning of automated is that the airline professional will do that stuff for them. So that's covered. They do track temporary, permanent, and citizens still issuing an stamp, and this happens at the exit booth in Mexico. So let's say your exit, if you're one of these three status and you're exiting Mexico, then you first have to visit this immigration booth at the airport. They're going to give you a stamp, and the airline is only going to accept you with that stamp, and then you can exit. In UK, it is partial. They randomly conduct checks. And there are very serious talks currently going on to formalize this, right? Having booths and make you go through those booths to exit the country. John here says that Aruba and Cayman Islands, to the best of my knowledge. Now, Aruba, don't forget, is part of the Dutch territories, right? The overseas Dutch territories. You have Aruba, you have Curacao. Now, if there is no exit control between, let's say, the Dutch territories, Aruba, Curacao, and other Dutch overseas territories, then that's a good feature. But being able to exit Aruba directly to outside world without exit immigration, it also makes it super interesting. Now, let's discuss what are the impacts of exiting with a second passport. Now, this becomes particularly very challenging. Let's say when you are a visitor, right? So you're visiting a country, you're entering in on one passport, the immigration system is recording you as entered in their country on a certain nationality. Let's say you spent 3 months, you were given 6, now you're exiting, now you change your nationality, you present a different passport on exit. And mind you, when I'm discussing all these things, this is not immigration advice, this is simply educational content, my analysis and assessment. You should obviously check all of this with the concerned authorities or lawyers or the professionals to get the right advice. This is my personal research and analysis on this. So once you exit with a second nationality or a different nationality or an alternate nationality, what happens is you're creating a new record in the database. If their systems are robust enough to tally you as the same person, then that works. But let's say their systems are not that established, right? Let's say that the systems don't recognize your second passport and you're exiting with a new nationality, then it's going to show that you have exited, but it's going to create inconsistency, right? It's not going to tally with the entry, and that is where they might think that you are still overstaying. There might be orders against you, and it could cause a lot of problems. Eventually, you would be clear because then you would explain what happened. A lot of countries are robust enough to capture this, right? They will have entries of all your passports, because when you're entering or you're exiting, they're implementing biometrics. So with your fingerprints, they're going to exactly know who's entering, who's exiting, irrespective of what documents you're using to exit. Now, there are some countries like, let's say, Canada or the US. Now, you could be a dual citizen and your destination country might require you to enter using their passport. So let's say you're a Canadian Australian and you're entering in Canada, you're using your Canadian passport to enter. But let's say you're moving outwards to Australia, and to go to Australia, you want to enter in as a citizen. So you're showing your Australian passport. So that is where the Canadian immigration is not going to know that you're exiting using an Australian passport. And that is where they may not care. Because obviously you're their citizen, so you can live as much as you want. But this becomes particularly challenging when you're a visitor. So when you're a visitor, it's best practice to enter using the same passport and exit using the same passport, so that keeps the immigration system less confused. The best case scenario here is permanent residency. So let's say you're a permanent resident of Canada and you have a couple of passports. Let's say you have an American passport and an Australian passport. What happens is when you enter in as a permanent resident, what's captured is your permanent resident card entry. Passport is more like a supplemental thing. So yes, you're entering in using, let's say, an American passport, and you're staying there. And when you're exiting, let's say you're going to Australia as an Australian citizen, you're using your Australian passport for exit. The Canadian system is not going to care about those passports. All their concern is that when is the permanent resident entering and when is the permanent resident exiting. So each country has their permutation combination. I get a lot of clients who are traveling using different travel documents and they're interested what's the impact. So if you are interested in having that discussion jointly, trying to see what is the best case scenario for your travel, you can always click the link in the description, book a call with us. We discuss this all the time with our clients, and hopefully this helps you make better informed decisions with your travel. All right, I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and if you have not participated in this poll yet, I would highly encourage you to participate. Let us know your feedback, and that really helps enrich this community. All right, catch you in the next one.